Hello, international friends. How are you doing today? Are you feeling good? Yeah, that's good. I hope you enjoy also the weather, because it's a little bit different maybe in the most countries where you live normally. Then you don't have snow, you don't have the cold weather. Me too. No, in Switzerland we have this weather. That's normal. Yeah, also snow and all these temperatures. Today we want to speak about extraordinarily strong in the relationship. And today is a great day for me, especially because a few years ago, when we started the church almost 5 years ago, we had the dream and the vision that we are in different cities, that we are celebrating in every city a few times on Sundays. And today we are going to start the 4th location in Ulm at 6 o'clock. So start means, yeah, that's great. That's really great. Start means we are having a vision night once a month, and every week we have a small group there and other activities that we are going to start with Jonas and Debbie. And I'm so excited about them because they are so cool, they are full of passion. They really want to have a church at the heartbeat of time in Ulm. Maybe you have friends there, then invite them to come in the next few weeks, in the next few months, that we can start a new church. Woo! Very cool. Yes, I liked it. Thank you so much. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to have a focus on relationship. And I read a very good thing. A girl tells her boyfriend, after our marriage, I will let you kiss me where nobody else has kissed me. And he said, where is that? In Hawaii. Okay, what did you say? Yes. Hawaii. A successful man is one who makes more money than his wife can spend. A successful woman is one who can find such a man. Maybe you are in a relationship, but maybe you are also a little bit tempted to say, okay, that's not my message today because I'm too much hurt about relationships. They didn't function, they didn't work. So what do we do today? I want to give you 5 principles why you need strong relationship and why this is really very important. The first point, if you have an outline, or you can get one behind you. The first point today, people with strong relationships are healthier. You know that there are some who wants to have an evidence about that. They search for that, and there are also researcher. How do you say that? Scientists who are saying, we want to check it out. Are people in the church in a stronger relationship? Are they healthier than other? There are different studies about that topic, and the most of them are saying, yes, they are healthier, they are stronger, because they do have relationships. There are also atheists who studied churches, and they wanted to find out, is there really a difference between that? If we support each other, we automatically increase our potential in all areas of our lives. I recognized in my life when I was alone, when I felt lonely, that was the first time that I went out. I didn't have a partner. I was alone in a flat. And then it was like I didn't go to sleep at night. I didn't eat very good foods. But we talked about that last week. You can remember about junky food and good food and healthy food and unhealthy food. And I recognize myself when I'm not in a community, when I'm not in a fellowship, I'm really tempted to do some really very crazy things. The likelihood that when we are not in a strong relationship, we are gonna be more unhealthy. We are we are doing self-destructive behavior. We become passive. Some maybe you smoke. You're starting to smoke because no one's seeing you, watches you. And today we want to talk about how can we have this strong relationship. Daniel had 3 friends, and they didn't obey to the king. They had to eat the royal food, but they didn't eat. And then we read about them. So they took God what their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. And at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So they were healthier. They were the minority in a land, in a pagan environment. And even though they had this strong relationship with God firstly, and also together, that's why they looked healthier. That's why they were in better condition. I brought you this poem. At the end of the message, you can get one. That should remember you that you shouldn't stay alone. You can play with that, but don't play with your life because it's too important. In Galatians 6:2 is written, "Carry each other's burden, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." You know, carry each other's burden. I don't know if you are in a community where you started to not only to carry your burden, so that you started to carry someone else's burden. Church is more than only think about egocentric life, to only think about you. That you start to think about your neighbor, that you start to think about your neighborhood, that you start to think about how can we reach people for Christ. Carry each other's burden also in the community, also in the church. You know, you can go to church like you go to a soccer game. Do you like soccer game? No, not at all. Maybe more football. Yes, is that your thing? Is that your what do you like? What you gonna do? Maybe you can go to a soccer game for 19 minutes, and you are very excited, and you are a fan of the team, and you're saying, "Yes, come on, that's good." And at the end of the game, you decide, okay, maybe I should change the club. Maybe I should change my team. And you can, and a lot of Christians are attending the church like this, so they decide to be a little bit like a fan. But following Jesus Christ is more than a fan, more than being a fan, because we want to be people who are starting to carry each other's burden. Are you ready for that? Because it's written in the Bible, what John wrote to Gaius, "Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well." So good health, your body, your soul, and also in your faith with Christ. You know, I already mentioned last week that I want to lose a little bit my belly. How many pounds? I said 28 pounds, yes? And it's a minimum that, because I was aware how much I weighed, and in the last days, because I didn't have a weight, to weigh, possibility to, how do you? Scale, yeah. And then I brought the scale in the last few days, and then I was wondering, whoa, I was surprised. It's much, it's really a lot. So I decided to get rid of all my fat. Yeah. Get rid of all my scales in the house. Punish them into the, yeah. So we want to go into the story of Daniel, and we want to see what the points are, but first of all, you have to understand the story, and I let you read it.
King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue It was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. He set it up on the plain of Dura near the city of Babylon. Then the king sent for the royal rulers, high officials, and governors. He sent for the advisors, treasurers, judges, and court officers. And he sent for all the other officials of Babylon. He asked him to come to a special gathering to honor the statue he had set up. So the royal rulers, high officials, and governors came together. So did the advisors, treasurers, judges, and court officials. All the other officials joined them. They came to honor the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. They stood in front of it. Then a messenger called out loudly, "Listen, you people who come from every nation. Pay attention, you who speak other languages. Here is what the king commands you to do. You will soon hear the sounds of horns and flutes. You will hear cithers, lyres, harps, and pipes. In fact, you will hear all kinds of music. When you do, you must fall down and worship the gold statue. That is the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. If you don't, you will be thrown into a blazing furnace right away." All the other people heard the sound of the horns and flutes. They heard the cithers, lyres, harps, and other musical instruments. As soon as they did, they fell down and worshipped Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. They were people from all nations, no matter what language they spoke. At this time, some people who studied the heavens came forward. They spoke against the Jews. They said, "King Nebuchadnezzar, may you live forever. Your Majesty has commanded everyone to fall down and worship the gold statue. You told them to do it when they heard the horns, flutes, cithers, lyres, harps, pipes, and other musical instruments. If they didn't, they would be thrown into a blazing furnace. But you have appointed some Jews to help Daniel govern Babylon and the towns around it. Their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They don't serve your gods, and they refuse to worship the gold statue you have set up." Nebuchadnezzar was very angry. He sent for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, so they were brought to him. The king said to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is this what I heard about you true? Don't you serve my gods? Don't you worship the gold statue I set up? You will hear the horn, flutes, cithers, lyres, harps, pipes, and other musical instruments. When you do, fall down and worship the statue I made. If you will, that's very good. But if you want, you will be thrown at once into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to save you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to talk about this anymore. We might be thrown into a blazing furnace, but the God we serve is able to bring us out of it alive. He will save us from your power, but we want you to know this, your Majesty. Even if we knew that our God wouldn't save us, we still wouldn't serve your gods. We wouldn't worship the gold statue you set up." Then King Nebuchadnezzar was very angry with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The look on his face changed, and he ordered that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. He also gave some of the strongest soldiers in his army a command. He ordered them to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then he told his men to throw them into the blazing furnace, so they were tied up. Then they were thrown into the furnace. They were wearing their robes, pants, turbans, and other clothes. The king's command was carried out quickly. The furnace was so hot that its flame killed the soldiers who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into it. So the 3 men were firmly tied up, and they fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet. He was so amazed he asked his advisors, "Didn't we tie up 3 men? Didn't we throw 3 men into the fire?" They replied, "Yes, we did, your Majesty." The king said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire. They aren't tied up, and the fire hasn't even harmed them. The 4th man looks like a son of the gods." Then the king approached the opening of the blazing furnace. He shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come out. You who serve the Most High God, come here."
How often do we think that there is no one in the furnace? And Nebuchadnezzar looked through the windows, and what he saw in the furnace, that there were 4 people instead of 3. Because there was a son of the gods. For us, okay, it's not an angel, it was not a son of the gods, it was the Son of God called Jesus. Theologians are saying, okay, this is the pre-incarnated Jesus. He was already in the oven, he was already in the furnace. Maybe you are feeling in the same situation often, that you are feeling that you are like going through the fire. And I want to give you 5 principles what we can do. The second principle is people with strong relationships are more radical. Radical doesn't mean that you throw bombs, that you destroy the world. Radical means, in the Latin word is rooted, radix, rooted. For us it's rooted in Christ. And this is so important to know, because Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. That is the best and the strongest relationships that endures forever. But there is a second thing. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's fantastic. When you start to believe like Daniel's friends, who were aware that God is with them, even they had to go through the fire. How often do you think God is not here? Where is God? You know, the second thing is love your neighbor, love as yourself. That's so important that you do that. You know, a few days ago, I spoke to the leaders and I said, hey, we have to reach the generation X, and the generation Y. I am generation X. Do you know that? Generation X. That's from 1997 to 1985. Who was born then? Yeah? We are Generation X. There's Generation Y from 1908 to 1999. Who is Generation Y? Why are you Generation Y? Do you know that? Generation X is more superficial in relationships, do they say. And Generation Y is deeper rooted. They are more focused on friends and family. They are more focused not on the work. They work that they can have fun afterwards. And the Generation X is more focused on work. You have to reach the goal, yeah? And that's a difference. But why is it good to have a radical relationship? Why have we grow in the relationship with the Lord and also with the relationship between us? Now there is a group, they had a deep relationship with God. It was the year 1982. And the group were gathered in a church called Nikolai Church in Leipzig. And they started to pray for a peaceful revolution, that Germany will be reunited. And they started their Monday events and the Monday movement, only a few. And after a few years, we see thousands of people who are praying in the Nikolai Church. And that was the reason why Germany came together, reunited, because some of them had a radical relationship with God. And this is so important that you have that. When you have a radical relationship with God, you can change a country. Do you know that? And this is so important to know that God used this peaceful revolution because of a few. And when you want to start praying, having a relation with God, having a relation between friends, and you're starting to pray, then you can change a whole country. When you go deeper into into the story, but there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you. They are very good. They're saying, okay, we have the power, but we do not pay attention to the king, your majesty, because he is like a pop star. He's more than that. He is like God. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. They said, I do not follow the trends of this world. How often do we follow the trends of this world? Instead of saying, okay, no, I say no. Even though the world is saying you need more sex, if you have problems in relationship, then change your wife and your life is better and you will have a happy life. But that's not true. How often do we see or you see things in issues, some issues that you have issues in your job and you can change it when you have another style. But you are saying, okay, maybe I have to obey, I have to do the same like the others do, instead of saying, no, I don't do that. The third thing is people with strong relationships are contested. You know, Jesus had the strongest relationship with God. And he had a purpose to save this world. And how often was he contested? Because he had this aim, he had this goal, he had this. And at the end of his life in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, not my will should happen, your will. You know, the more you fight for relationships, maybe you fight for the marriage of your parents, then you are often in temptations. You are often contested. Because you fight for something that God wants that you should fight for. And it's so good that you fight for a relationship, that you fight for having a relationship with God like Daniel's friends. Maybe you are asking, where was Daniel? Did he worship the idol of the king? This golden image? Theologians are saying Daniel was not there, or he was not thrown into the furnace because Daniel had a too high position. No one would attack Daniel because he was in a very, very high position. But these friends were under the leadership of Nebuchadnezzar, and they saying, or it was written, furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. He was filled with anger. You know, Nebuchadnezzar was at the peak of his leadership. He had a very strong kingdom. He had a very strong economy. And that's why he felt like God. And everyone who did not obey, he wanted to kill it. He was very creative in killing people. That's like today. People are always very creative when they can harm others, attack others to reach their goals. The fourth thing, people with strong relationships are more resistant. I don't know if you have a small group. But if you have a small group, then you are more resistant because people can pray for you. You can start carrying each other's burden. We have almost 30 small groups in the multi-site of ICF Stuttgart, and I want to show you a few of them.
Mit dem Tee ungestellt. Schauspiel.
Also wir haben den größten.
Dan.
We have the biggest or the greatest, Dan. Okay, hey, that is a clip or a few clips from our small groups. Maybe you didn't discover them, but I want to encourage you that you discover small groups, because people are there for you and you can be there for some people. People with strong relationships are more resistant. You know, these men, Daniel's friends, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. That's very, whoa. That's very weird. I would never die like this. Would you? Thrown into the fire and being burned? That's a very, I never would do that, never experienced that. When you see the YouTube clips from the Islamic State, then you see that they also burn people. That's not very, very good, very nice. But then we see and we read, and these three men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. The blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there three men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see four men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth look like a son of the god." He was totally out of everything that he could not understand what's going to happen now. Maybe you have never experienced God in this way. That God can do supernatural things. That God can help you. Even though you are feeling like you are going through the fire. Even you are feeling you are going through the water and you will not survive this moment. And I can give you this advice. The more you are related with God, the stronger your relationship is with God, the more you can go through the fire, the more you can go through the water, and you will more than survive. Because it's written in Isaiah 43, that's a promise. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. That's cool. And when you pass through the river, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. How often how often I felt like I am in the fire. I can remember 12 years ago, I often drank too much because my soul burned. Because when my children were abused and I had to call the police, this moment, and all happened in the church, this moment, it drove me crazy. And then I wanted to commit suicide, and then it was like the moment that I'm walking around, and this moment was like Jesus is there, and he's saying, Dan, I help you, even though you're facing so much pain, even though you're suffering right now, I am with you. And I can promise you, even also in your job, wherever you are suffering, you can be sure that God is with you. When you are in this relationship, and the whole thing about church is not having these numbers of people and all the stuff. We want to help people having this strong relationship, because when the fire comes, we want to help you to endure, to be aware that Jesus is with you. And I'm sure my God is with me, not because I'm that good, because of His grace. Not because I am very talented, or you are thinking you are very talented. That's good. It all comes from Jesus Christ. But the thing is, everything is because of His grace. Not because of us, because of Him. And you can survive everything. And the fifth thing, and this is really very good, people with strong relationships are more successful. Today it's maybe contemporary to have this networking thing, but this is not modern. This is an old truth that people who are related with each other, they have more success. We read, therefore, the king Nebuchadnezzar said at the end of the story, therefore I decree that the people of any nation, because he saw the supernatural God of these three guys, of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and the houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. He was always very creative in killing people. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So he wanted to kill them, but instead of that, God helped them to survive. And the king Nebuchadnezzar, the great, high, powerful, very successful king, promoted them. And the same thing will happen to you. Even though you're thinking, okay, now it's the end of my life and I will not survive, you will survive with your wife. And you will have more success than before. That's the God that we serve. And the key is that we recognize it's not because of us, that we recognize we need God. That we see that we need God in every area of our lives. It's written in 1 Peter 5, humble yourself. Go on your knees. Therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you. Humble yourself. And you're saying, God, I need you. I can't do it by my own. I really need you. And I admire you. And I love you. That's the strongest relationship that we have. And I bless you. I want to bless you right now. Also all podcast viewer, everyone who is listening right now, that you will have stronger relationships with God and with people. God bless you. Amen.